Did a good job washing my hands. I think I failed. Yeah, we'll leave it. Give something for Brian to wave his arm on later. All right. It's 6 o'clock. We're going to start the April meeting in May 11th. Roll call. Everybody is present. Item 2, work session reports. None. Good. Done with that. Item B, discussion request of clarification of items listed in the agenda. Item 3, regular session, reports and announcements. Finance report for Economic Development Corporation.
Good evening. It's like you have me back to back, so I'll be pretty quick on this since we just closed April. These numbers seem a little stale. Results through March. This is our midway point of the fiscal year. Sales tax revenues, $356,000. That's 34% of the total budget. This time last year, we were at 30% of the budget. Rental fees at 48.1%. That's on pace. Our EDC operations at 50.2. That's almost perfect, on pace with that. Town center, we're at 23.7. And our fund balance here to date is just over $2 million at 331 days of reserve, or 90%. Do you have any questions on the March numbers?
Quick question for you. On the 2007 bond that we're seeing here in the budget report, what's maturity on that 2007 bond? Are we getting pretty close to extinguishing that debt? Do you have, and I know that's kind of out of left field. You may not be prepared for that, but is it a 2030? Okay.
Hey, we're getting close, but as far as giving it as that date, I don't know off the top of my head. I'll send you an email with that information.
No, I'm just curious.
Okay. We do have on the finance section of the city's website, we do have a debt schedule on there that this particular bond will be one of the items listed on there. So it's listed on there, but offhand, I don't have that number for you.
It's okay. I can look it up. No worries.
Any other questions for John? Okay. Item 2, Economic Development Corporation Annual Report.
So 2 of you have already seen this presentation. It's almost the exact same one that was presented to council at the last meeting. There is one additional slide. I'll point that out when we get to it. This is all of us. Purpose and responsibilities, just a quick statement here. So revenue sources, there was one surprise on this. These are just our general listing: sales tax, event donations, investment income, sign revenue. We do have a billboard rental. We have rent from the town center. We do have rent from land and miscellaneous revenue. Here's a chart. So the one thing that jumped out, really, at least it was a surprise to me, was that the sales tax is only 2/3 of our revenue sources. That town center rent actually is the second largest at 20%. I don't know why I didn't expect the number to be that large, but it did jump out to me. And then we can see the other categories accordingly. So some of these, the spirit of this are items that were either completed in 25 or started in 25. So we start off, we did purchase some land, 811 West Kennedale Parkway, a remodel of the former Dollar General site. 600 West Kennedale Parkway. This is the property that was sold for a 3-building shopping center. Right across the street, we have this projected retail center. 300 Bolin Road. This is a hotel at the corner, closer to Bowman Springs and 20, but Bolin is that side street that's by the storage units. Kennedale Oaks Townhomes, I believe they had a groundbreaking recently. The Dollar General old and new. So the old on the left, That's the building that we started the presentation with that had construction on the inside of it. To the right is the current market that's on the police station side of the building, and that is the ribbon cutting. A few before and after on the Parkway, just emphasizing cleanup on Kennedale Parkway. We have Beards Towing before and after. So these, we went to Google Maps and tried to find the exact same perspective on a before and after. So we can see Beards. You can notice there was a significant improvement on landscaping, painting on the facade. Just the whole building in general looks so much better than it did prior to them moving in. LBK Roofing before and after. Again, with some significant upgrades to the landscaping, fence looking a lot better, and just an occupied building definitely does look better than an unoccupied building. 621 North Little School Road. So this was a concrete slab that has turned into a training facility for Texas Damage Baseball. 429 West Kennedale Parkway. Again, this opened recently, but the project actually started in the calendar year 2025. So we have a before and after of the vacant Kennedale campers, and then on the right, the First Fence USA ribbon cutting. This is the one additional slide. It's just the EDC grants. So the grants from the last, well, really 3 years, since we're counting what we've done so far in 26, but in 24, we had 4 different grants. FY25, we only had 1 window for application. That's due to the program change. We missed that spring window while we were updating the program. We had the fall window with Beards Towing. And so far for FY26 in our spring window, we did award a grant to Spirals Gymnastics.
How are those 2024 grants going? Have those all been, I guess, appropriated? They've been paid, so on and so forth?
They're fully paid. They're fully off of our books. As far as going,
Yeah.
I'll leave that's more of an opinion question than a fact question. So to answer the first part, yes, those grants are complete. Reimbursement has been submitted. Those are completely scrubbed from our books. From a financial standpoint, Beards has also already asked for their full reimbursement. So that one on our books is off completely. And Spirals, if you've been by there recently, you see how far along they've come on the pool. There's a huge mound of dirt that was dug out of the ground, and they've had an inspection on the side of the pool. The inspections are passed for the point of construction they're at now. So they're moving along pretty quickly.
So you would say that most of the recipients have been pretty much successful, with the exception of the community garden.
I did not offer an opinion on success. I only offered an opinion on whether we've paid out the grant in full or not.
But I'm making this point because we have requirements that we set up as a board for these grants. And I'm just trying to tie into that as to if there's anything we need to change in the future. Because so far, Mr. Wally's is doing well, from what I understand. Thrive is doing okay, and Valentino's and so forth. But I have not seen or heard anything from Ms. Sargent as far as the community garden.
For that one, I would say at this point, I would say it's success. They do have a garden. Now, what has come out of that garden, I do not have an answer for. But for what the grant was offered for her, she has fulfilled that obligation.
Well, and if you recall, Mr. Glover worked hard between 24 and 25 to ensure that we changed the process.
I know that.
Yeah, and so that's why I only ask about 24, because we did change that process. So
That's correct.
And Mr. Terry, to your point, that's exactly why I mentioned the progress with Spirals. Was with the program change in 25, there was mention of somebody from the EDC being able to visit the site. I happen to pass that site almost every day when I leave here, and I do know about the pool inspection. So as far as those obligations, I can speak to Spirals on where they're at because I've seen it myself. The others, I've been to Thrive Coffee and Valentino's. They exist. They seem to be doing fine. I haven't seen their books, so I can't really provide a comment about success or not, but they are here and they seem to be busy when I show up.
Yeah.
But that's all anecdotal. There are 380 agreements. We have 2 that are active. Right now, we have Quick Roofing and Southwest Ambulance. Quick Roofing, it's active, generating revenue. I do have some restrictions on what I can openly discuss involving Quick Roofing, but what I can say is that they are on pace with the projections made at inception as far as revenue. With Southwest Ambulance, the facility is complete. If you see it from the street, it looks really nice. We did send an eligibility verification letter to the recipient just to verify that they're meeting the guidelines that were set in the 380 agreement. As far as events, of course, most of the departments in the city have an event that they take the lead on. EDC has 2. We have the Town Center Car Show. That's a great attendance trend, very significant increase from year 3 in year 1. Our hometown Christmas, we had a bit of a dip this year, but if you recall, we had a pretty gnarly rainstorm come through right before the event, and then it started raining right as the fireworks were starting. So I can see why we dipped. We're looking forward to having some more fireworks and seeing that attendance get back on the right track. And the final slide is just a really great picture from hometown Christmas with a really colorfully lit tree with the firework exploding in the background, and that's something that we can be proud of. That's the conclusion of all my presentations. If there are any more questions, I'll wait a couple minutes. Maybe not minutes, a couple moments.
So this year at the Hometown Christmas, are we doing a drone light show? Or are we going to up your game, city manager, to something better than fireworks?
Yeah, the drone show is probably, unless we get a significant donation for that. We do anticipate having the fireworks again. This last time we had 11-minute show, and we're looking at taking it back down to 8 minutes. Some of our difficulties last year, obviously, it started raining, which really disrupted the display. But yeah, we do anticipate having another hometown fireworks show.
Going back, looking at the revenue sources of that pie we're looking at, the town center rental, is that strictly related to building 1?
That's only EDC owned property.
Okay.
So yes, I lose track on what the building numbers are, but it's the antique mall and where the former Dollar General was, it's that building.
Building 1.
And we also put the yellow house goes in there also. It's within the town center.
So on that 308 there, is that inclusive of a few months of Dollar General there? How much of the fiscal year 2025 was Dollar General in that? Was it maybe half the year? And then I guess my next question is, we would anticipate that's not a full year of them being there. We can definitely say that.
That's correct. I can't remember exactly the month that they dropped off, but half sounds reasonable.
So we can probably assume that once the construction's done, that number would be significantly higher.
Probably lower.
Oh, lower.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, a couple of different reasons. One, the lease agreement will be less than for the YMCA versus Dollar General. Plus, any repairs or anything that come out of there, we've had significant plumbing issues throughout the whole building. We've had some with the remodel side of it, but also it's been a domino effect throughout the whole building. So we've literally have ended up having to replace the sewer line for the whole building. So obviously that will be coming out of that revenue as well. But, as we move forward with the contract with the YMCA, it will be less than what we're currently with.
But how much less?
So would you assume that 26 is probably 308, give or take? I mean, we're not going to see a meaningful increase in
Correct.
rent rolls? Okay.
Right. And if you look at it over the last years, you'll see it kind of fluctuate. And a lot of that is for repairs. So if something goes wrong with the building, obviously with us being the owner of it, the cost comes to us. And basically what it does is it'll come out of that lease agreement that we have.
I can just make one point of clarity real quick. when you, 26, our budget was 240,000 and we're on pace to hit that. So if you mean 26 will be lower because no one's in the space. If you mean 27, I think 27 will be closer to the 308, but I haven't gotten that far in the budgeting process to give you a number yet.
And the only reason I ask is because obviously we're writing a big check for real estate. So I'm just in my head trying to figure out how quickly we're going to make that number up. So I was referring to 27. That's fair.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, okay? We're spending all this money to renovate this building, okay? And you're saying now that anything in the future happens, we're responsible for. So are these, the sewer line that was not included in the original estimate to remodel that building?
Well, it is for that particular, there's 4 tenants in that building. So it's more than just the YMCA or the old Dollar General.
Okay.
We have had to replace the whole pipe. It's
Okay,
going
so
from
it's
the,
not the Dollar General.
yeah, it's the whole building. It's not
Okay.
just that portion of the building.
Okay. And you mentioned about it would be less, the rent's gonna be less for the YMCA than for the Dollar General. How
That's
much less
correct.
are we talking about?
I want to estimate probably around 3,000.
3,000 a month?
Mhm.
Is there any particular reason why we gave them a better deal than Dollar General?
It's a partnership.
Oh,
with-
partnership? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Director Horton, I know it's far in the future, but when we look ahead to 2030, we'll be, assuming the town center transaction happens, we'll be missing about 300,000 a year in revenue to the EDC. Is that still an accurate statement?
Depends on the year because we're looking at 240 this year. So 300 probably by that time is right on. Maybe a little more, a little less, but if we're like that far out, that's the close number.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it just future boards will have to kind of keep that in mind in the back of their, in terms of budgets and what they approve to spend. So,
To kind of feed off of that a little bit, as we get to that 2030 mark, and just Craig Hughes realtors take over the town center, that money will be made up and or not sales, but on property values. So we'll then receive a property tax on the totality of the town center.
but would that be EDC tax or would that go to the general fund for the
It'll
city?
go to the general fund.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have, so this pie chart would not reflect that unless we make a
Correct.
point to carve that money out of the general fund and send it back to the EDC, which
Yeah,
Isn't like-
absolutely. That is accurate.
Yeah, and quick math says break even would be like 2031 based on renovations and the land purchase by 20. By
Well,
Highway 20.
I don't think that's a fair statement, but I understand what you're.
Just to refill where we are today, you know, if we lose that revenue of, let's just call it 300 hypothetically in 2030, you know, we're talking about 7, 8, and 9, basically 27, 28, 29, so 900,000 hypothetically, and then that essentially stops.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking out, you know, we're not going to be able to replenish to where we are today. Now we're in a great place today. But I just think it's something we need to consider on future purchases, that we have a looming decline in revenue for the EDC that's pretty meaningful. If the property tax is going to the city, not to the EDC, if that rent is coming off in 2030. Does that make sense?
If you're only looking at today's dollar, that would be accurate.
Yeah.
Obviously, we do have a future. We have other properties that are for sale and do anticipate selling within the next year.
Wonderful. Love it.
But for today's number,
Yeah.
yes, that is very accurate.
Now, if we're talking about bottom line revenue, there is a cost to operate the town center. So that whole 300,000, that's not our net profit. It's just one thing to consider. Like if we just look at our current budget, I mean, we still spend about 200,000 before we talk about the renovating of the current Dollar General. So it's more accurate to, we're closer to break even is all I'm getting at. We're closer to break even on our town center than what you may think. It's not 300,000 in bottom line profit.
Yes, right now you're at 242,000 based on current activity. So I guess by that number, if that were consistent year over year, it would be a $60,000 loss, not 300. So
Which there are some additional things this year that are because we're renovating a building in the budget. So I just want to point that out, but we're closer to break even than $300,000 profit.
thank you. That's helpful. And I wasn't trying to be pessimistic about the future. Just wanted to mention the 300,000.
No, and I think it's very accurate for that statement on both sides.
Any more questions or discussions? All right, we'll move on to item 3, Town Center Development Update.
Well, with that discussion we just had, that was part of the update to let you know where we're at with building 1 and some of the issues that we've encountered, not only the old Dollar General portion, but the building as itself. We've had issues with plumbing, literally from one side to the other. We've also had some electrical issues in the same sense. That part is particularly with the update or the remodel with the YMCA building. I'm not an electrician by any means, but we had to change the electrical boxes in reference to it being 50 years old. So we had to get that one updated once inspections started coming around. It's a minor correction versus what the plumbing was like. Literally, we had to go in and cut all the concrete where the sewer line was, and there was an old steel pipe that literally just crumbled. So there are some, when you're looking at that 240,000 or 300,000, that's going to be significantly lower because of the repairs. The repairs are 100% the EDC.
Quick, easy question, I hope. Any update on the EV chargers? We talked about that a while back, and I think it kind of fell off the radar.
Yeah, John, you give an update on that?
So COG right now is soliciting vendors. They would they would actually operate the piece. So we would, in the theory, if we continue forward with the program, we would own the chargers, but a private entity would actually operate the chargers. And the COG is working out an RFQ and various parts of the contract as far as that operator would provide data for the reporting. They would provide the data to us that we would then send on, because the reporting requirement on this is it's significant. And we wouldn't have direct access to some of that data. So but the operator would. So all that to say that COG is, they're seeking out vendors that would be the operator for all of the EV stations. So we wouldn't pick one, COG would pick one, and then we would go along with the agreement.
All right. And have they provided any sort of a date ETA on that, or when they'll make a decision?
We had a recent cutoff to provide feedback on the initial agreement, on the initial contract with COG. And then we had a window to provide feedback for the RFQ, but I haven't seen a deadline after that.
Are you talking about the actual approval of the grant or the process and getting it installed?
Just the process in general, I think.
Yeah, the approval part's been, we're approved, so we'll get the grant. COG is just going through their process. They're actually managing the install, the contractors that's going to come in and manage it. They're doing that. Ultimately, we're in the back seat, waiting for it to be installed. Once it's installed, then the contractor will report to us. Then we turn around and report to COG. Put a time frame on it. We're talking about COG. I would say a minimum of 6 months just to go through the RFQ process.
I figure as measured in years. How much was the grant for?
240,000 rounded.
Just for EVs? That's great.
No, that was our part.
Yeah.
It was significantly larger than that. But the idea is this operator will come in and they'll cover our local match. So this shouldn't cost us anything. We may have to put money up front, but the operator will then pay us, like reimburse us
Get reimbursed.
for use of that site. Now, we have been approved for the grant, but throughout this process, there still are a couple points we could eject if we don't like the way the program's going. So while we've been approved, we're not 100% locked in. So as the process goes, if we don't like a vendor, or whatever the case may be, we're still not past the point of no return.
Where on the property were we thinking of?
The site that was approved is beside the yellow building that YMCA is currently in. So it's just this side of that on property that the EDC will not cede when when Hughes Commercial takes over the town center. There's a parking strip there that will always remain our property, and it'll take up the spots over there. It's really like right by the dumpster, across from where the
Where
dumpster.
we had the trunk or treat majority of our events.
Hmm.
where
It's
no
just on the
back-
other side of
It'd be
it.
those 2 or 3 first slots.
Great.
Is there any financial benefit to the city other than just operating to the the citizens of the city?
No.
Okay.
The big push that we had in mind as a staff was that it would bring people to the town center. One of the big selling points for COG was the gym that we've been talking about, the YMCA and the old Dollar General. But the idea of bringing people to a commercial center to charge vehicles. The other adjacent concept that we had is if at any point the city decides to get an EV fleet of any kind,
This program here, the upfront costs, they're coming out of our pockets, correct? And then there's a
Possibly.
reimbursement process.
I haven't seen the mechanics of that yet, but the end goal or the way it was sold to us was that the operator would be covering the local match. The way the grant is written by the federal government requires a local match, but that the operator would cover our piece. We might have to front money, but we should get reimbursed if we do.
Okay, second question, that reimbursement, is that based off of usage? Or based off of our cost?
It would be based on our
Immediate
costs.
reimbursement.
We're not expected to make a profit.
Okay.
If we do, that's fantastic, but that's not the goal of the program.
All right, that's it for Town Center Development Update. And next, item B, consent agenda, March 24, 2026 EDC minutes. Does anybody see a change, note, or ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor, unanimous. All right, item C. Item for individual consideration, discussions, and action. Pavlik and Associates Strategic Action Plan and Market Analysis Contract.
Yes, for tonight, as you saw in your packet, Linda and Kate are here to answer any questions you may have in reference to the plan as we move forward. A lot of our discussion on the dais and in the executive session knows how we move forward. One, putting a strategic plan together. What is the outcome? What are some of the things that we plan to get out of that? And the other part was a market analysis, which Pavlik and Associates has indicated they can do both with experience and knowledge in doing so. What we bring to you tonight is for approval to move forward with a strategic plan and the market analysis. With Pavlik and Associates have put a value of $50,000 to put that package together and have, in a sense, meet and greets as we move forward, not only for the EDC board with our city council and to our public as a whole to be able to put this plan together for us. And obviously, Pavlik and Associates, they're here to answer any questions you may have.
Can you walk me through a timeline? Looks like we have numerous phases here, starting with scope of work. Based on we're a relatively small city. Can you walk me through what a reasonable timeline would be for kind of set a baseline that this is going to be a multi-year process, or is this going to be, because I see in here, 0 to 3 years in phase 2, as well as I think phase 3. There's some different timelines. So if you could just give me some clarity on what that looks like.
Sorry. No, I think, okay. Anywhere from 12 weeks to 16 weeks worth of planning and those pieces. Now, where it comes in, the 0 to 3 years is looking at our goals and how we set our goals. So short terms, what we call, the easy wins, and the up to 3 years, and then longer term beyond 3 years. If you want to, if we're talking more about the nuts and bolts as far as the timeline of the process, the strategic planning process, we're looking at up to 4 weeks for phase 1, which would be alignment and validation of direction. That's when we would be doing our meet and greets, interviews, meetings, one-on-one, all the discussions, to kick it all off and to look at what the data was, the data that came out of the community survey, but also to review what has been done in the past as far as plans, and what visions and goals were set forth there. So that's the first month. When we move into the second phase 2, we look at weeks 5 through 8. So it's just a little bit under a month. And we're looking at what you think of when you think of the market analysis there. And we are talking about being very targeted and strategic in how we do that, and pulling together meaningful and accurate data from a variety of sources. We don't anticipate much, if any at all, of that being like paid big data, which are thinking about, going to the big data companies and pulling that down. A lot of it'll be through statistics and data that we find in our like COG and that kind of stuff. When we move into phase 3, we look at weeks 9 to 12, and that's where we put together, that's where the rubber meets the road, where we're putting together that strategic action plan, and building out that strategic vision, setting those goals, moving forward there. Then phase 4 is an implementation toolkit. I should go back. In phase 3, I think what sets us apart from a traditional market analysis is that word action plan, strategic action plan. And we do that by, we are looking at really setting up a matrix, an implementation matrix for you all. So it would outline everything from the goals to assign responsibilities to all of those different places. So it's very, very actionable and a clear path forward. And then when you by the time you get to phase 4, then you can start to build out that toolkit and what all the different pieces are, communications pieces, what you're looking at there. That could be where we get into some of the branding and your packages that you're putting together. And then phase 5 would be final, and that's looking at your evaluation framework and KPIs and that kind of stuff. So.
But emphasizing we're talking about 4 to 6 months.
No, 3 to 4 months. 4 months really is our.
The 4 months is kind of what I was, that's, I think you would.
It would be more rapid paced. The difference is how in phase 2, well, I thought I could talk loud enough. In phase 2, the approach we'll be taking, it'll be Texas, North Texas, and there are some areas around that. We've talked a lot, and I don't really think it's necessary for us to deal into coffee spots and casual dining all over the nation. The difference in what Washington State's offering, it's not going to be mindful for us, in our opinion, as far as we pull people in. We've already started some conversations with different professional teams that we've worked with. For example, I'll go ahead and say this. There was a real estate person I've worked with in the military installation base sector, but he's also in Dallas. I told him he does commercial real estate, retail and grocery stores. And I called him the other day just to say, how are you doing, Jim? We're going to be looking for your information about grocery stores. And he said, I'll come right over. I said, no, wait for another 2 weeks. But we're going to look to those professionals. We're involved with various real estate planning organizations in Dallas, Tarrant County, and we want to use our relationships with those people to help candidly talk about where we are as a region and where Kennedale is as a city right here in the center of everything. That's
Question to follow up on that. So let's just assume we're 2 weeks in. Or 4 weeks? How often can we as the EDC or maybe even the city council expect deliverables from you guys? Is it going to be once a month, every other month, more frequent? How often do you think we would be able to see a tangible touch point that this is what we're working on, this is what we're doing?
Sure, yeah. We have looked at the overall scope of the project and assigned deliverables, tangible items that would be delivered at the end of each of those phases. So within, the 3 weeks, within the first 3 weeks, month, the deliverables for phase 1 would be a step-by-step implementation roadmap, actions organized by priority and timeline, and clear ownership and sequencing. So we're talking about the economic development strategic action plan, including, I'm sorry, that's phase 3. I was skipping ahead.
Well, you can
But you're
ballpark it.
seeing-
You don't. Working on, this is what we're moving towards, et cetera.
Yes, and we've really looked at keeping you all involved throughout the process, being very transparent. That is at our core, we're communicators and we're transparent. And so keeping you all involved, keeping you all up to date, apprised of what's going on, that's critical. And I think we would look to you all to continue to work with us and collaborate with us to keep moving forward.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's the idea throughout this whole program, is one, for us to be involved every step of the way without providing the information and what we believe is the need of the community and our business development side of it. We have to have that involved. And as we go forward, we want the city council to be involved to show and share their vision of what, not necessarily the EDC, but our business district. What are we looking at? What do we want? Involving the city council will be a key to it as well. And we plan to do that.
The very first step forward is going to be what we're talking about, the general SWOT analysis, and working with you all in that regard. And then individuals, if you all would like to talk to us about something, or we decide that you would be most knowledgeable in certain areas, we are going to call you and say, we have 10 minutes of your time or 30 minutes of your time, because we want to ask you these things and then get your guidance or suggestions on what we might do next. We want to be in lockstep, because that's the way we can move quickly and you will be a part of it. We're not asking you to go knocking on doors or anything like that, but you'll be a part of it. And for us to be frequently communicating, either in writing or short presentation or however you want to direct that, will be important. You will be trusting us and we'll be trusting you to be giving us what we need to do to have a very successful program.
Will your plan include two options, like option A, option B, or just one option? I mean, does it include like changes that you perceive or changes that the council or the EDC perceives, or?
Are you speaking with reference to the scope and what we're doing? Or are you
Right, the
just-
scope,
We have built out what we see being a comprehensive to build a strategic action plan. This is what we will do. Of course, we understand and know that economic development planning needs some flexibility at times, but it would come at the direction of you all if you were looking and said, you know what, this new opportunity has come up. We really want to increase public involvement or have 6 extra meetings. I don't know what it would be, but it would be at the direction of you all, and it would be a conversation. But I don't anticipate, I mean, we can get the action plan done with the scope as outlined.
Well, and another part of that, in my opinion, would be from a standpoint of knowing what's going on with the feedback from the SWOT analysis. Let me say that nothing is pre-written. We don't have a template in our office of exactly what we would be doing in Kennedale that we might have been doing in Ennis, which we've done, or, you know, other places. It'll be yours and yours alone. And so unlike what you might be used to seeing, you know, here's your choices, that you won't see anything like that. It's not a template that would be even copied by anybody else. It will be Kennedale's. So, and it will evolve. That's an absolute requirement in order for us to be in lockstep and do this in, you know, this shorter time too.
Now, you mentioned survey. When do you plan on doing that survey? Or has that already been done? What survey?
Well,
We-
we've done a community survey from the city. The city has done a community survey that has outlined what their vision of the city as a whole.
Is it the city only, or is it citizens of the?
No, it's the citizens, it's the community itself. So the citizens of Kennedale was asked to give us feedback on certain topics throughout what the city government offers. So that's part of what this is coming to. What they're asking, if you look on page 6,
Yeah.
it says project timeline. So that timeline is giving you by phase and what their anticipation is. So we're going to have to give them feedback or give them ideas, give them understanding of what we're looking for. What is a strategic plan? They'll give us a definition of it. Then we give them feedback saying, okay, yeah, this is the direction we like. When we like to do this, we like to do A, B, C, and D. We give them that feedback. They're experienced in putting these strategic plans together. And that's what we're asking. And they're going to come with questions to us. As they ask these questions, we're going to give them feedback. Then they're going to go to work and put all the stuff that we said into a document, into a formatted discussion. Then they're going to come back and give us benchmarks. So they're going to give us feedback saying, all right, this is what we heard you say. And they're going to put that into a document to say, is this correct? And we'll keep doing that. We'll have meetings not only for the EDC board, but our community itself, our business leaders, our city council. We want the feedback of our leaders. And if it doesn't matter if it's the EDC board or planning, zoning, whoever that may be, as an individual, we want that feedback. They're going to be the ones that come in and communicate that, put that into a document that we can see, physically see, and then that information, they'll go out and do a market analysis and say, hey, the citizens, the community is looking for this type of retail, this type of grocery store, this type of whatever that product may be. With their experience and knowledge within the DFW area and beyond, they have the contacts to help us put that strategic plan in place and make the contacts capable of meeting with them, saying, hey, the city of Kennedale, the city economic development has this to offer, whatever that product may be. Part of their deal with the market analysis is for them to locate that corporation, that business, small business, whatever the person, whoever it may be, and say, hey, we think your product will match Kennedale. With it matching, we believe you can be successful in the city of Kennedale. And that's the product we like for them to bring. And I'm going to go a step forward with it, even beyond this strategic plan and market analysis. The plan is, as we get this strategic part behind us and we can move forward, for the city council to take this information as well and build off of that as we continue to build how the city's strategic plan, not only on the short term, but more importantly, for the city council, a long-term vision of what we want to accomplish. Some of this we have already seen in the past couple of decades, honestly. If you go back, you can look at Imagine Kennedale 2015 was actually done in 2009. So if you look at that 2009 Imagine Kennedale, you will see a lot of these topics have been completed. We've been able to accomplish a lot of those goals that were set back 2 decades ago for us, and we've accomplished, I want to say, over 90% of them. Some of them are just not in today's vision, right? So we weren't able to accomplish those as of yet. And that's what we're asking today, is for the EDC to be a part of this overall goal and overall vision. Let's put a plan together, not only for today, but for everybody that follows us. And I think it was very helpful for the city, EDC, and everybody involved to be able to do it. And I think Pavlik and Associates can help us put that together. We'll also look, as we go into the city strategic plan, of having UTA come and get in a part of that as well and get a different view, a different vision of, honestly, and my side, a different generation of looking at other than what may be on this board. Some of them might be our kids, right? That come and be a part of that. And hopefully we'll be able to hit a vision for everybody. And this, I believe this is the first step towards that.
Well, I only asked about the survey because I was wondering what demographics and what percentage of Kennedale actually received that survey, because no one in my neighborhood received any survey.
You're probably accurate with that. I did not mail it to every resident in the city. That's not cost effective to be able to do that. It also has been shared in our newsletter for the last 4 months prior to the survey itself. It was all on all of our social media platforms. It was shared repeatedly, and to that point, it was shared on this dais during the EDC. You were invited personally to do the survey.
Well, how many people actually read that newsletter? I mean, look at.
Well, roughly, we had over 600.
Chamber's empty, man.
Well, we had over 600 that responded to it.
Really?
I can't go out there and make people do it, right?
I'm not saying that, but I just was curious as to what
Yeah.
percentage and what demographics and.
It was roughly about a 6 to 10% response, and that's fairly normal per se. If you look at our election, that will tell you that as well. It's very accurate in that same number.
It's not, we can't do it cost-wise anymore. It just 3 or 4 years ago, we would go ahead, the city would purchase the database from your, utility providers and things like that. And we would snail mail to everyone. Well, that's tens.
Or do if you're talking about a statistically valid survey, you're going into random sampling and all of that kind of stuff. As far as community surveys, the ways most communities are moving, it's more of this opt-in where you're putting it on social media and it's self-selecting, right? So it's people, and that's good and a bad thing because you're getting people who care, but this is also a group of people who know how the system works and they're in it, and everything else. So it's kind of give and take when you get there. But the statistically valid surveys are not done in a community setting as much anymore.
Let me correct myself as well. We did send mailers. I sent 2 of them. It was for the hometown Christmas. And on that hometown Christmas, one side was hometown Christmas, the other side was the survey. So 2 mailers went out to every resident and business owner within the city of Kennedale. Okay. And it actually went beyond that, was also in the 76017 area code of Arlington.
Okay.
I had a question on phase 5 under the performance and accountability framework. One of the tasks under established was key performance indicators tied to priority actions. And I understand that actions will come from phases previous in the project plan, but could you share some KPIs that you have produced or other towns have adopted so we can kind of get an idea of what the measurements could look like for us as a EDC moving forward?
I think off the top of my head, doing something like that would be a little bit of an injustice to you all and what we're talking about as far as a tailored plan. So it's going to those KPIs, and it could be, anything. It could be if we're gonna increase sales tax a percentage or whatever. Like once we establish the goals, then we'll get there and kind of slice and dice as far as what the KPIs are.
Okay.
There, as we mentioned, we have no general template that we put out. It's, and one thing we'd like to move forward on, sir, is the SWOT analysis that we're suggesting in that phase one. And whether we do it as a group or split up, and we've got a lot of people here, but that's the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And those conversations should be very, very candid. And we're very experienced in forcing that conversation. And it's not a public meeting, so you can be candid and talk. And that we'd like to schedule that in 2 weeks. If we're going to meet that first 4 weeks, that'll be up to y'all and telling us how we can make that happen. But we're ready.
Sorry, somewhat off topic, but this Kennedale's pretty unique in the way the city is laid out.
Sure.
Just to the west here, you're right on the highway, very, very busy, a lot of traffic. Then you get just past the municipal district here, and it slows down quite a bit. Would it be reasonable to have two different plans? One that would be an urban, high traffic, grocery store type situation up closer to the highway, and then something more blue collar further this direction down the highway? Or is it, and the reason why I say that, and I've just thought that simply because we've got a city here, would it be easier to take a small bite and say that part of the city would do really well with this specific plan? That plan may not work on this portion of the city. And I'm just asking because you do this, would it be beneficial to possibly have two separate plans that maybe complement each other?
I don't know that it's two separate plans as much as it is two sections or set of goals and tied to specific areas. So we might look at something in your, over next to the freeway commercial, that is very specific to that area. But when you do start to talk about Kennedale being so unique and you get further out and it's more rural and there's a different mindset, I think when you start to talk about goals that are tied into the reality, that's what it is, right? Is looking at the reality of how Kennedale's laid out. I would be cautious to go ahead and say these are two separate plans. They really have to be integrated. And maybe we're saying the same thing, right? If you're saying two plans, but they complement each other, I'm saying one big plan and it's, very specific in what you're talking about. But I think, we're there. Yeah.
City manager, we've got a few references to EDC and also the city. I'm assuming that the city council is mentioned as a responsible party in the contract. It's assuming the city council will be.
I don't think, ask the manager.
Okay. So my question, I guess, more to the city manager would be, while this board's got two current and one future city council members sitting on it, do we also need to take this to the council and let the full council review this plan as well?
We can do both if you like. Currently, I have the authority to spend up to $50,000. With that said, also we're budgeted for.
I'm sorry, that wasn't a budget. I wasn't implying that we needed it for budget approval. It's more, we want everyone to be involved. We want everyone to believe in what we're laying out here. But with only 50% of council looking at this currently, do we also want to just not necessarily vote on tonight, but take it to council next week and say, EDC wants to vote on this. Do you see any edits you want to make? If so, let us know and then come back again.
I was looking for a decision tonight from the EDC board. It is strictly towards EDC. And that's what I was anticipating as we move forward, is that we'll budget for the city council to have their strategic plan implemented as well as we go into October, November timeframe and have that second part feed off of this one.
Okay. Thank you.
We were also recommending that we would have one-on-one interviews, conversations. Interviews sounds very formal, but those conversations with the various council members who would, you know, be up and ready to do something like that.
Sure. I was just trying to give them the opportunity to kind of look at specifically the outcomes of each phase. And if there's something that they felt strongly about or wanted to see changed, now would be an easier time to change it than later, but heard on wanting to get the vote done tonight, and we can proceed with that.
I'm truly open either way that the board wants to move forward. I was looking at it as strictly a EDC concept, which involves, as we go forward with the council. Ultimately, you know, the council has responsibility as far as debt issuance. We're not issuing any debt regarding to this. I was looking at it as truly an EDC decision with involving the council.
And also depending on what the council members are suggesting or recommending to us, especially if not, they're not in big dice and they have to, you know, talk at that level, we can be tweaking our materials and redirect. I mean, if it all comes about now that we need to look at this totally different industry, and I can't think what it is right now, given what we're hearing, then we'll make sure that we're including that. It's fluent. It's not, it's academic to a degree, but it's also more.
I think our plan is to have a true workshop with the council and EDC as one, as that we all come together and share what those visions to get started. So not only does the EDC have the vision of, honestly, business owners, right, to have the experience and background and share that with the council as a whole and get their vision of what that may look like as well as we go forward, was the vision of it.
One of our very first groups that we wanted to look at, and I already asked them, the manager, if we could access those names and all. Companies that have looked at Kennedale or real estate gurus have been in and around and brought people here, and they decide not to come for whatever reason. If we personally can talk to 10 or 15 of those folks, I think it might be very insightful and helpful.
Any more discussion?
I'm sorry, I have a question for Daryl. This proposal here, and myself being the newest, the newest EDC member here, this proposal, what overlap is there to the previous proposal that we finished last year and terminated?
Are you referenced CP2?
Yes.
CP2 was a different strategy that we utilized last year. We were moving forward to utilize them this year with some of the difficulties that we had with the Chamber of Commerce and some of the direction we were going. It didn't work out with that. That's where the funding for this project, the strategic plan and the market analysis is coming from, was that partnership that we had with CP2. Does that answer it?
What do you see, Daryl, with this, completing this project and having the strategic initiative, this master plan? Does this reduce your workload at this time when related to EDC affairs?
No. I think it's going to add to, but that's why I'm here. And I think it's something that honestly, I feel is a necessity. It's hard to implement a plan or a vision that you can't see on paper to a certain extent. I think every one of us can say that we have a vision for Kennedale, or we have a vision in our head, our thoughts, and sometimes it may be hard to express what that vision may be. And I think Pavlik and Associates are a great partner to be able to put that on paper. And I'll be honest with you, the last 4 years that I've been in this position, without me going back, honestly, 20 years ago and reading everything Bob Hart has done, George Campbell, and some of the other personnel and community surveys, just literally stacks of a lot of documentation of what the city has envisioned for us, the citizens, all the feedback we've gotten. Honestly, I don't think we've been able to accomplish some of the things we have accomplished in the last 4 years. And I want to set up the ones that come in behind us for success. There's one thing I can say and look at, that all these surveys, particularly very complimentary of the same thing. Every community survey that's been done is saying the same thing, maybe in different terms, but ultimately the final goal of it has been the same. I think we've been able to accomplish that here on the EDC board, definitely on the city council and other boards that's been associated with it. And I feel like if we don't document what those visions are and have somebody that can come in and put all of it together for us, we're missing a great opportunity to showcase exactly who we are and who we want to be, and ultimately what our citizens are asking us to do. And I think this is a great start to do that.
Well, and I'll quickly add, the reason we're standing here today is because of my long-term appreciation of folks in Kennedale. I mean, we are a small but mighty firm, but having represented the racetracks 10 years ago, you know, and such, knowing and listening to the folks, working with the city managers at that point, understanding how important your just where you are in the region, understanding your transportation needs. One of our ongoing big clients is the transportation section, the Council of Governments. We're about on 10 different studies right now in Fort Worth, Dallas, Arlington, to the south and to the north. It's interesting, but we like it. And I'm very determined. I'm the former newspaper reporter who was always nosy and would cover and understand what city government meant. Now, I'm jumping out of here, but we're taking it very personal too. This is my daughter. You can maybe tell. She's trying to tell me what to do, and she'll say, "Mother, you shouldn't have spoken that way out there." She has a PhD from UTA in public policy and public administration. She has an MBA from University of North Texas. She has, her undergraduate degrees are from TCU. But going back to research, this woman led the HUD studies, their required every decade studies for a year throughout Dallas, Fort Worth, North Texas. We understand. And so I'm thinking from a standpoint of how do you compare us from others? It's because we never do anything the same way. There's nothing on the shelves, after having been in business the decades that I have, that's absolutely the same. And that's what's important, because what we're hearing, and year after year, decade after decade, the people have been saying the same thing. They want the hometown feel. They want this, they want that. They want the grocery store. They want to be able to get to jobs. They need jobs, but there we go. So that's a very emotional. But the flip side of it is, and we're action driven. We don't want to be here a year from now talking the same talk. It's either, going to work and you're going to love it, or, you terminate it midway. I'm smiling, but we are engaged, and, I've done multiple things like this in Arlington. I understand the difference between Arlington and Pantego. I've worked with the city of Mansfield before it was what it is today and did the plans. So let's do it. That's all I want to say. We'll step out so you can continue to talk about us. Let's go.
I'll make a motion to approve the Pavlik and Associates Strategic Action Plan and Market Analysis Contract.
Second.
All right. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, it passes unanimous. And with that, we got item 2, policy review requirement for applicable real estate acquisitions.
Yeah, this was my request to be put on the agenda. So what I'd like to do is discuss creating a policy related to land acquisitions by the EDC. My suggestion is kind of as a starting point to start the conversation would be we establish a consistent process for future acquisitions involving property that has previously been used for commercial or industrial purposes. And then specifically, what I'm suggesting language we put in the policy is that if property has been used for commercial or industrial, that we would require a phase 1 environmental site assessment completed under the ATSM standard. And if that assessment identifies any environmental concerns, then a phase 2 assessment, including soil or groundwater testing if appropriate, would also be required. This proposal would also require an independent appraisal of the property prior to acquisition, and that the seller be responsible for the costs of these assessments and the appraisal. So with that, I'll open up to the board for discussion.
I think your proposal, David, completely at this time makes sense based off of the acquisition that we made last. I stand behind that decision. I think that was a great move on our part, but the concerns that were expressed by the board, the citizens, these are simple insurance policies that I think they're simple due diligence. And so makes sense to me.
Quick question, just to clarify. What is the seller of the property on the hook for? Phase 1, phase 2?
Yeah, so again, the seller, so that the board is not responsible for funding these environmental studies. If they want to sell to us, then they would be responsible for funding the phase 1, and if findings are found, phase 2, along with a certified professional appraisal of the property value. So basically, we're not on the hook for anything.
Yeah. I think we could probably, I agree with the phase 1, phase 2, having the seller cover those costs. Third-party appraisal is relatively inexpensive. I could be swayed one way or the other when it comes to a third-party appraisal, whether we cover that or the seller of the property.
Well, I think it's more about just requiring the appraisal versus who pays for it.
Right.
So if it's a split cost or however we want to work that out with the broker, I think that's fine. But it's more just the appraisal.
And do we know phase 1, phase 2 costs? Has anybody run the numbers on that? Do we?
It's all word of mouth. I've talked to a neighbor who does it professionally, and his indication was to taking the property the EDC board bought last meeting, 15,000 or so was kind of the number thrown out for a phase 1.
Would it be reasonable to, let me first say, love the idea. I think it's brilliant. I think it's prudent to get this approved to protect the city. I think one thing we could possibly leave somewhat open is who covers the cost of what. Require it, and then if we are that interested, maybe we pay for phase 1. Or if the seller is extremely interested in selling to us, maybe that person will be able to cover the cost, or we meet in the middle somewhere. But But having a little bit of flexibility on who pays what might be a good idea to, outside of that, I love the proposal.
I mean, we can strike the language on the seller must pay for, but I think it's more about just the establishing the policy that if it's been land has been used in this purpose, then let's go ahead and do some due diligence on it.
One thing I'm looking at too is you're talking about cost. We know who's going to get the cost, the people buying the land. So if it's $15,000 to do an environmental study, then that land just went up another $15,000. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certain properties in Kennerdale that if it used to have a storage tank underground or something like that, yes, you would do an environmental study. Or if it's a business that dealt with chemicals and stuff like that, yes, I can see that. But not every piece of land in Kennerdale needs to have an environmental study.
Let's just be land that's been used for industrial or commercial. So if it was zoned for that, that's where it would kind of trigger this.
And that's the same thing I'm saying. There's a lot of land that's on the highway that's commercial and industrial, but a lot of them don't meet the requirement to even do an environmental study because there's nothing been there. You know, it could have been a residential house.
Would you be comfortable adding language that says if the EDC board unanimously agrees, then we can void the requirement? So if there's a proposal on the table and we say, look, we've all seen this land has been empty for 50 years, it's never been touched, but it was zoned commercial. We'd like to buy it. We want to waive the environmental assessment phase 1. If everyone votes for that unanimously, would that be okay? And then we just skip it?
Personally, I don't see anything wrong with the wording that you have in your suggestion already. So I think.
Flexibility is key. And so having it come to a vote might be prudent. And maybe it's not unanimous, maybe it's a majority. But I do think not only on costs and who pays for what, but possibly to the point made that there's a property that's been industrial, it's never been used for chemicals, et cetera. We could all sit here and look at each other and understand that the property has not been used for something that would cause us to need a phase 1 study. So I would say that would be a good first step, would be to possibly draw this up, bring it back, and have us vote on it to maybe implement, to your point, phase 1, phase 2, in addition to third-party appraisal. And if the property in question was not used for said industrial, chemical, et cetera, the board could then vote to waive any studies. I do think that an appraisal should happen no matter what. I don't think that should be up for a vote. I think that if we're going to purchase a property, we need a third party to step in and say, this is what the value of the property is. I don't want to be on the hook to say it's worth X when it's worth Y. I think it would be very prudent and a good business decision, regardless of what the property's been used for, to have a third-party appraisal. I don't think we need to vote on that. I do think giving us the flexibility on the phase 1, phase 2 environmental studies, going to a vote, gets everybody's opinion. I think it gives us some flexibility there. I don't want to make it so restrictive that it hampers future development. And that's kind of my thesis there, is just to give us some flexibility.
For everything that was just said, and I want to refer back to the property that we just purchased. Everything that was just shared, I believe we have done in executive session in full open concept of it. With that, I do believe that we can put some policies in place to help protect to David's point, I totally agree. I totally agree with the real estate side of it, but I also want to indicate a environmental study is not required by law. I don't think it's a good idea to require us to do something that's not required by law to do. Now, with that, if we want to go in and indicate that we need a phase one is going to tell you, hey, do we need to go another step, right? Whatever that cost is. I think that cost should be on the buyer. That's just me personally. The seller will say, well, if you want it done, go get it done, right? It's just a benefit for them. But to the point, if we want to protect whatever entity, the city or whatever, I think at the minimum or at the most, we indicate we'll get a phase one done. I think we went through that process this go around. And with the salvage yards that we did purchase, it did bring a lot of discussion internally, not only for the EDC, but also for the city council as a whole. Some of the residents, business owners that's familiar with that land, not only as the salvage yard, but prior to, my understanding, my meeting with engineers that do these environmental studies, as engineers, the information they were shared was the reason why this environmental study was not completed. And again, we don't have to go through that again, but if we want the protection, I think it needs to stop at phase one. Phase two, in my opinion, if we believe there's something beyond phase one, you know, what is it, right? And I think the engineers can tell us that. And then we make a decision if we want to move forward with that purchase or not. Because it's substantial financial to do that. Particularly if they come in and just say, hey, we got an issue here. I think a decision needs to be made if we want to move forward with the purchase at that point. We did not see that with the salvage yard. Some of the key factors that were underground tanks, things of that nature, and that property has never had any of that. But I think it is for protection of whatever, and we want to put that into a policy or into our bylaws, then I think we need to do that. But I also, for y'all's discussion tonight, we have done exactly everything that everybody has discussed. We went through that process. It was not necessarily on the diocese, but we had executive sessions that we had this discussion for the EDC and the city council. But again, if we want to do a phase one and a real estate, I'm good for both of them. I don't think we can go wrong with those.
Hopefully that wasn't directed at you by any means. I don't anticipate it was, but you know, with adding these policies and things like that, I don't think it was necessarily directed at that land purchase more so than just learning from that purchase.
Absolutely.
These are
And I'm not
things-
meaning it by a negative by any means.
Yeah.
Please don't take it that way, because that's not what it is. I'm just indicating if it's a policy we want to play, I'm all in. I just don't want us to put a restriction that we're going to come in and we're going to do A, B, C, and D. And honestly, to Kenneth's part, B and C may have nothing to do with it. And we turn around and we spend thousands of dollars for something that honestly we shouldn't have done. And then it's in our bylaws or in our policy to do. But I think to David's point, if we do a phase one, that will dictate what the next step is.
Yeah, I think it'd be prudent, to your point, to have a vote and see what the board decides if a phase one is necessary. We'll all know the property, we'll all know the history. We can all vote. Do we feel phase one is necessary? I do feel like the appraisal is probably prudent to just stick in the file for future reference. It gives us less flexibility in appraisal, maybe $500 or less. I wouldn't assume that would be a huge burden on the buyer, to your point.
Our last one was $2,000. So.
Oh, was it really?
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's higher than I thought.
That would be high. Commercial.
Yeah.
Honestly, it depends on what the property is.
Yeah.
the price was $6,000 and I was able to get it to 2. Just because it was considered commercial.
Yeah, that's quite a bit higher than I would anticipate. But even then, I almost feel like, that's tough because you buy the property over by the railroad tracks. That's 1/10 of an acre. That there's really no reason to get a third party appraisal because there's not much value in it, and then we're required to.
Well, and
That's
I think to maybe David's part, again, a lot of our discussion was taken in executive session, and it may be that we just bring it out and we have the discussion on the dais and take a vote and put it in the policy for that. In a sense, if we believe it's more transparent or whatever the case is, we can have that.
But a lot of times when you start doing a land purchase and you're in executive session, you don't want it out there to the public where Joe Blow business can come in and buy the land from underneath you.
that's correct.
And
So that's
that's
the reason why we do an executive session.
Right. I think that the intent of this would be that, before the final vote, the public vote,
yes,
that we would have this documentation done. We would have professional appraisal in the packet. And again, if it was, I think even if it's just a phase 1, if we just leave it in there, it's part of our policy that if we're going to do a land purchase that's been commercial or industrial, we go ahead and just do the phase 1. If that means we pay for it, we split the cost with the seller, I think that can be negotiated. So that way it's in the packet and everything is just documented.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like if phase 1 probably comes back negative, we probably wouldn't move ahead after that. Or we would take a vote, or again, this is not an executive session at that point. Still probably say either we push ahead with a phase 2 or just leave the deal on the table. So where do we land on this? So kind of appraisal stays in, we pay for it, or split it, or could to be, basically it's just appraisal required. We're just leaving it on that.
well, what do you, just for your discussion, what do we put in a policy that is recommended? And that way,
Well, so if it's a recommendation, it's not a policy.
well, the discussion is there. It makes the discussion take place. That's the only reason why I say a recommendation. Because we can put it in a policy, but it also gives us an option, maybe to your point, property next to the railroad that's got the horn going off or whatever, it's not, had the value. That's the only reason why I say recommendation. And it could be, or even put for vote.
Okay. Well, how about,
I kind of look at it too as just because somebody's selling property to the EDC or we're trying to acquire property from the EDC, normally we come in with a number to them and see if they're going to take the bait. If they don't take the bait, then we either go up. Basically, we kind of have an idea what the property is going to cost. So what we're trying to do is get it as cheap as we can. So if we're going to do a evaluation of the property and say, okay, it's worth $200,000, but we're fixing to buy it for $50,000. Are we going to spend $6,000 just to buy it for $50,000?
well, but if we pay for the appraisal, we don't have to release what they say until the end. So if we're offering 100 and they said yes and it's worth $1 million, then we just made a great deal. And we have proof that we did make a great deal. If we're offering $1 million, it's only worth 100, then we also have paperwork that says, don't do this
Well,
deal.
I thought during this whole conversation, we were saying we're going to push the price on to the person selling the property.
Well, I think we backed that off. We said, we can leave that as part of the negotiation. It's more about just the outcome of the process. So I'm less concerned about who pays for the appraisal and more that we just get it done. So if it's a matter of we leave out in the policy that the seller pays for it, it's just, it needs to be done before we move ahead with the vote, then we'll let we can either say we require it, as Daryl can then say to the potential seller, our policy requires this. We'll send if you want to proceed, we have to send an appraiser out to do the appraisal, be no cost to you. And that's it. And then we have it. It's in the packet and they can be discussed in an executive session of whether it's valued appropriately or not.
I think it'd be a great piece to have in the packet regarding the appraisal, just for everybody in here to see it. Here's what a professional says. Some of you may be in real estate. I'm not an expert. And property that may look like it's not worth anything is actually extremely valuable, and vice versa. And we've all ran into that. So I think having the appraisal as a mandate per se, I don't know how you would classify that, or a policy, seems reasonable to me. Now, I do agree that there's some properties that might not be very valuable, and having the appraisal might just kind of be a pain or a waste, if you will. But I do think it would be really good for the process, have it in the packet, and then as a suggestion or recommendation, I should say, for those properties that are in the industrial, commercial, that we put it up to a vote on whether we need to proceed with a phase one, which likely means in 99% of the situations, we'd never have a phase one done. I don't know. That's where I fall on it. Doesn't mean it's right, but that's just me thinking out loud.
So thinking about that, how could we memorialize that in a vote? If we're trying to have a executive session style negotiation, but we need to take a vote, like I'm just starting to think about from the mechanics of taking the vote. And Mayor Pro Tem, I'm going to look at you. Would it be a matter of we just say we are taking a vote to perform or require a phase one on this property we discussed in the executive session, but never list the property out in detail? Can we do that and it'll be okay?
That's a good question.
Or do we
It's
need
a
to
great question. I'm
ask the city
not
attorney
an
that?
attorney, but to me, you could sit there and discuss it in executive session and then come out and make a vote and say that you're going into phase one of a future property purchase, because it's always on executive session. So once we get through phase one, but that's something we would have to review with the attorney and make sure what I'm saying is correct, but that's how I would see it. It still keeps it quiet to where someone can't come in and just take it from us, but.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean-
city attorney have to review anything we recommend as a policy change, so
Right.
he can make sure everything's.
Yeah, we can, in the executive session side of it, once we document it, it's open. It's up for review or open records, right? To that point, we can still have a discussion internally, and come out and say, we're looking at making a purchase of land. With this, we're wanting to move forward with a environmental study, a real estate appraisal, that can come out and be said. Internally, we already know the property, things of that nature. That would be good. And we can come out and have that open vote, per se.
Okay.
And we can do that now as well.
Just as long as we make it clear for the next group, because we're not going, when we leave, and other people replace us, we don't want it confusing for them that they can't buy property because they see stuff on there that says, well, we can't buy it without this, and we can't buy it without this study or that study. Now, there may not be that much more land available here, but whatever you do in your proposal and passes through and it's legal, we need to make sure it's good for the future members of the EDC board.
Completely agree. I think that the intent was to make it easier on boards so that they just have all the information at their fingertips when they go to make the decision. It was not meant to be a burden or encumberment on anybody.
I don't think his proposal is saying that you can't buy land. I think he's saying that we have due diligence and responsibility to the citizens of this community and this city. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
I think everybody sees it that way. I truly do. And that's the reason why the discussion needs to be taking place. For me, I'm looking at it, it's not required by law. So I hate to put an additional burden on something that may not be, really needs to be fulfilled. The appraisal, I think, is a very smart move either way. All that was done internally. Same thing for environmental study. All that is due diligence that needs to be done. And I think what David is indicating, we need to document that. I think that's what he's asking. And that's a very fair assessment of honestly what we just went through. I can come up here and we can sit and in an executive session all day long, but in that same sense, we're coming out and we're making a decision, and some of those questions may come up. And to David's point, it's an executive session. Our concept of coming out and speaking out of that is illegal. That part we cannot do. And I don't mean to speak for you, but I think that's part of it. We want, I say we, and I don't mean to call you out, David, but David wants to talk about it. David wants to be able to get input and bring that back. And I think that portion of it may have been not shared enough. Internally, I think it was there. But maybe it wasn't enough to the public. Again, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think that's what we're trying to accomplish is how do we put this documentation out that, hey, we done our due diligence. We looked into this matter, whatever property it is. And everybody has made a comment because do you go by the railroad and go and do an environmental study? You know what? That's just as important as going to buying the residential you're talking about, because we have hazardous material that goes down this rail every day. And not everybody knows it, but we've had 3 derailments. So, I mean, the question is constantly there. The city is made up of automotive. Cars have every fluid you can imagine, and it goes up and down this parkway. It goes down every road. They go to every parking lot. And I feel our due diligence was done internally. And I think we expressed that internally, and we made a decision on it. And I still think it was the right choice, and I think everybody else does as well. But to the point, it's a due diligence, again, that I think we're just wanting to make sure we get out in the open and putting it in a policy and still having a resource to refer back to. And we say, well, it's in policy, this is what we need to do. And if there's a circumstance that doesn't necessarily fit the policy, I think it's up to the board to make that decision. Hey, this policy is in place. However, it doesn't really pertain strictly to this. And I think that's when we can come out and make that decision of maybe we don't necessarily need to go this direction, but the board believes we need to go a step forward.
Okay. Well, this wasn't meant to take a vote tonight. It was only meant to be a discussion item. So if it sounds like everyone is certainly okay with the spirit of the intent, what I can do is I'll write it up, bring it back to the next meeting. I think we have in 2 weeks now because this one's been rescheduled a few times, and we can just continue the discussion then and/or take action. Similar to how we did with the grant program. We'll just work on it up here until everyone's happy with it, and then we'll send it off to the attorney if we decide that's what we want to do.
And I probably would make sense to me to leave who is paying for it off.
Yes, sir.
That can be done at a later time if we decide
We'll let that be
pay
negotiated.
for it, or we're going to ask them to pay for it.
Yeah, that was less than
I just don't want you to mandatory say that they have to pay for it.
No, we can let that be handled with the brokers and some buyers and sellers.
We'll let Daryl work that deal and get them to pay for it every time, right?
I think my biggest deal, if I'm buying a piece of land and say, oh, we need to do an environmental study, I'm going to go, screw, I don't want to do that,
Yeah, but we're a public entity. I mean,
Well,
I think that's
right.
not the difference.
And
We
then I
have,
would just turn around and sell it to somebody else that doesn't want to do that.
sure.
So we just missed out on something that could have been something great for the city
Not
for
necessarily.
the future. Then it was just a piece of land that we're just saying it's not worth anything, but
Yeah. I mean, I think the environmental study is more about protecting us from the unknowns that you just, don't always see on grown or on top of the land. So that's kind of the intent there. But again, like we did before with the grant program, I'll write it up, bring it back in a couple of weeks. I'll share it with the city secretary. It'll be in the packet, and then we can just make edits, put it on the dice. Is that okay?
Okay. Sounds good. Item 6, 9/11 Memorial 25th Anniversary.
As you are aware, the Town Center Park is owned by the EDC. And as we're moving forward, I'm sorry,
Plaza.
Town Center Plaza / park. We have a 9/11 memorial that was purchased and built by the EDC. And we're coming up on our 25th memorial for that. I would like to truly promote and market our 9/11 Center. I'm very proud of it, and I know the board is and the city is as a whole. I would like to move forward and start planning our 9/11 memorial, just like we do every year. But with that, I would like to get some challenge coins representing and promoting our 9/11 memorial itself. I would like to put our 9/11 on one side and the city of Kennedale logo on the other side. So obviously it'll be two-faced. And not just get your discussion, your recommendation. If you like the idea, how would you like to move forward? And if you like it.
Has it really been 25 years? Wow.
Yeah, same thought.
I fully support what you proposed. No comment from me. So
Just have to ask, cost, or what do you think the coins were? I mean, I'm totally fine to advertise it, send out flyers, post on social media, but for the challenge coins, I just don't know what those, you said challenge coins, am I right?
Challenge coins,
Yeah.
yeah. And we're looking probably about $1,000 for 200. So it's at minimum. Obviously we can go more than that if we would like. I was looking at just starting at 200, and it's for obviously the board and our council, all of our leaders within our organization and our city to hand out and be something proud of.
How many people attended last year's 9/11? It was over 100, I want to say. wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we had, it's 70, 80.
I think this one being the 25th will have a higher turnout. So I would just say, in terms of your number, I would buy more.
My plan is to truly start marking it like tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe buy 500 coins if you can.
Yeah.
That's probably, because you'll, I think, hand them out at the event and then.
Absolutely. Yeah. My anticipation is hopefully we can have it as a field day for Kennedale ISD to come out and be a part of the ceremony, including fellowship, any of the schools that may want to come out and be a part of it. We're trying to get some keynote speakers to come out. Generally speaking, we have some elected official that's come out and been the keynote speaker. I don't see that changing. We've already started trying to find one in general, so there's a lot of them that's already been taken. So we have a challenge in that manner, but I do anticipate having 2 or 3 speakers.
quick question. Is there a local machine shop that would be able to machine these coins here in Kennedale?
If there is, I'm not aware of
Okay.
this.
I didn't know of one. I was just curious.
They've got to make a die and stamp it, correct?
Yeah, just
After you send them the artwork?
There's a casting. I mean, obviously I came from the PD, so we got challenge coins. Just about any public safety has a challenge coin. So we have some contacts and contracts with them that they do it nationwide. But if we do have one local, I have no issue at all utilizing somebody local. I'm just not aware of a machine shop that does those. They're very, very unique to a certain.
It's a die cast that requires the actual mold, as you stated. And there's online service companies. We purchased them this last quarter for our sales team. And really, to my surprise, the cost was very ineffective, or not ineffective, very cost effective. And really, they were taken very well by the sales team and the members of our staff.
They're very unique, and what we'll do, Tina and I have already started trying to get some artwork associated with it, and we'll have a lot more of them, and we'll give you something to choose from and look at and see what you like better at our next council, or I'm sorry, at our next EDC meeting in 2 weeks. So we've already started the process of it. So rain or shine, we're coming.
Are we allowed to have coins typically have a face on there? Are we allowed to put Daryl's face on this coin, with the logo right there? Ah, got it.
Yeah.
I guess the only added input I would add is the challenge coin, much like all swag or this type of promotional item, you have a challenge coin that you walk around in your pocket and that you leave, that goes in your dresser for safe keeping? Or do we look at a pin of some type that might be more visible long-term? But there's always so many different ideas. I think anything we do would be great.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty fond of shirts too, but I have not anticipated getting sponsors for this or anything at this point. But for some reason, if I do get sponsors, we'll probably have shirts for it. To me, people wear these shirts everywhere. I don't know if y'all noticed, but we've given out roughly about 1,500 sweatshirts at our hometown Christmas for the last 3 years, and I see them regularly. I see them in Burleson, Crowley, Mansfield. I see them everywhere, and these kids are wearing them to school, obviously in the middle of the summer. I don't understand that, but I truly like to see the public wearing them, and it's a good advertisement, marketing for the city, in my opinion.
Did you need a vote on that?
No, sir. I just wanted to get y'all's feedback, what y'all thought about the idea. And it is something that's not budgeted. So although it's still, just say $1,500, $2,000, I just want to make sure I share it with you and get your feedback on it. I do have every intentions of having an extremely large crowd here. And just to let you know, I know you already know, but it will be September the 11th at 9 a.m. If you want to put it on your schedule. Thank you for the feedback.
Sounds like a great idea. I still have my town center brick somewhere and my town center Lexan or whatever it is, not town center, but the 9/11 memorial in Lexan too. That was, so I mean, I have 2 different things from over there and I still have both of them. So it's not something I just sit around, throw it in a drawer and forget about. All right, do we need an executive session or anything?
No, sir.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn.
And a second, and all in favor?
Second.
Oh,